Welcome again to the S.E.M podcast. Jack Bryce and Zach Hewlett are here today, and tonight we're joined by our friend Billy Dalebout. Billy, it's good to have you. What part of the world are you joining us from tonight?
Shawnee, Kansas.
Shawnee, very good.
Suburb of the Kansas City area.
Very cool. And you said you just moved there recently, right? Or within the last couple of years?
Yeah. Actually, about a year and a half ago now, my wife and I could go remote with our jobs. So where did we go? We threw a dart and landed in the middle of the country. So
nice.
Some good perks here. I mean, of course, we came for the barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
Aside from that, cost of living's a little cheaper. They've got good schools here, a little closer to some families. So it's nice to change things up. We've been in the DC area since we graduated and got married, and we had our 3 kids there. And it's a different lifestyle in the DC area. We lived in the Alexandria and Arlington area for close to 15 years, just a little under, and then before moving out here. So
I love it. That's awesome. Good.
It's a huge change. Never in my wildest dreams would I think of moving to Kansas if I had anywhere I could choose in the country. But here we are. So.
Yeah. If it works, carry on, right? Well, good. I didn't ask you this before we started, but have you been listening to the podcast, and are you familiar with our format?
I am. I'm actually pretty pumped. I started got your invitation, and then just a couple of weeks ago, I started going through your list, and I'm like trying to pluck out all the podcasts of missionaries I either served with or ones that I knew served at the same time. So yeah, it's great. Love hearing what you guys are doing. Love hearing the stories. Even contradictory stories from a few other people that I've heard.
Hey,
it's great.
Statute of limitations is over. This is an opportunity to come clean on any moments you want to share. So that's a key point to bring up. So thanks for bringing that out, Billy. So again, just a reminder, we'll talk pre-mission and your decision to serve a mission, and then ultimately your call to Scotland. Then we'll skip over and talk about life since then. You can kind of run through what you've just briefly told us about, and then we'll go back through the mission. So I'll give the time to you, Billy.
Awesome. Yeah. We'll just kind of hit some bullet points here. I mean, before my mission, actually I have to tell this because at age 13, my dad came home and had told my brother and I, and my mom too, that we were moving to London. And my dad taught at BYU, and he had applied for the study abroad program over there.
Wow.
And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I'm ready to try out for the basketball team and stuff. I got my little life here. I'm an important middle schooler. But anyways, best thing that ever happened to me. We spent 6 months over in London. Actually, we took couple trips up to Scotland. And while we were up there, that was the first time that I hiked Arthur's Seat and learned the story of Pratt's Hill. So
that's awesome.
Fast forward to 2001, right when I graduated from high school, my dad had said the same thing. He wanted to do it again. So summer of 2001, right after I graduated, I actually started BYU and did a summer term. My first 2 classes was British history and Shakespeare. And the 2 months, so I was a student this time, and we also went back up to Scotland, hiked Arthur's Seat. Had good visual of it. We also saw a couple of church history sites, so we went up to Preston, and the MTC was under construction, so it was a temple, and we kind of got a preview of that, not knowing that I was going to get a call there.
That's really cool.
I came home, and my parents were still in London doing the fall semester, but I started up school at BYU in Provo. Got my mission call, and I opened it up, and I'm like, Scotland, sweet, you will serve in the Preston MTC. I was like, that's all right. Let's do this. I'm ready to go. Having grown up in Provo, I always thought I was going to end up going to the Provo MTC, and had lots of stories recounted from others that have been there, but completely my fault.
Agreed. Most of us that were raised in Utah had plenty of those experiences shared with us, because most of our parents and family members, that was kind of the only option at that point in their lives. So that's pretty cool. How unique that you were able to be to Pratt's Hill beforehand and to see the MTC and the temple in Preston. That had to have been pretty surreal to go back and do all that again. Time frame wise, you entered the MTC when and went home when?
Yeah, February 2002. So I split the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake.
Oh wow!
Okay. Halfway through, I think I was set apart and watched the Sweden and Germany hockey game. I was getting in.
Nice.
Going to some Olympic concerts. I think I saw the Foo Fighters and Dave Matthews Band and stuff before I left. And there was a downhill skiing event up in Ogden that I went to shortly before. But so I was kind of bummed that I was leaving because I was having a good time seeing the Olympics. But
yeah, at
the same time, I was ready to go. I think probably stereotypically, February 2002, probably stereotypically of a Utah kind of missionary. I had a great group of friends, a lot of other guys that were going on missions. And so, I mean, culturally, we were all a good influence on each other. Even like when we got out of the mission, one of my friend's moms was collecting letters from all the missionaries and would pack them into newsletter and send them out. So just had a good support network of buddies, and we were kind of, cheering each other on, sharing wacky stories and stuff. And,
that's fun. My mom did the same for my group of friends too. So it's always good to have one of those moms that puts in the work for all of us to keep in touch, because it was virtually impossible to send letters and emails to each other for that period of time. So you returned home February of 2004, is that correct?
Yeah, roughly, I think. So
okay.
Yeah, got home, resumed work at BYU in Provo. Graduated in, '07 with a BA in economics, and then just jumped straight into a master's degree. Literally graduated the summer of '07, and then started the MPA program at BYU in fall of '07. Finished up in '09. During my second year, I was a TA for the econ class, the economics class, and actually met my wife there. She came in for help on a project and was like, thanks, but no thanks. And then afterwards sent me an email like, thanks for your help. I didn't help her, but I was like, oh, she probably wants to go on a date or something. So she has a different story, but we dated a little. We dated for a good portion of that year. When I finished, I got a job offer in the Washington, D.C. area, and with the Environmental Protection Agency. So I kind of worked things out. She agreed to. She said yes, and I asked her if she'd marry me, and we did the long distance thing while she finished her second year in the MPA program as well. Don't recommend long distance relationships, but if it's your only option, it can work, and it did. So,
yeah, that's awesome. And then you said you have 3 children. What are their ages?
Yeah, we got an 8, 5, and 1-year-old. So the oldest is a boy, the others are girls. They were born in the Arlington, Alexandria area where we lived in the DC area. Absolutely loved it out there. It's awesome. Pandemic years kind of took the magic away for us. Everything shut down. We were kind of cooped up. There's limited space where we lived and stuff. And we just, after the pandemic, we were just really feeling the crunch, and housing prices gone up so much. We were like, let's just go somewhere that's a little calmer, a little closer to family. We had our 3rd kid out there. So that's kind of, as I mentioned earlier, kind of how we ended up in the Kansas area. Got family out here, get more of a house here. And just loving it out here, just that we could make the choice to do it, because the pandemic did allow us to do some remote work. So that's been good.
Oh, that's great. Love to hear it. All right, well, let's go back to the mission. You can start MTC and kind of just carry on through your area's companions and favorite memories.
Yeah, awesome. I just remember going, like I said, the MTC was something that was familiar. At least I knew where I was going. I hadn't been inside the building I got on a flight. I think I went through Chicago. I met Elder Howell there on the flight. We talked the whole time over. We played Frisbee out on the MPC pitch out there. And I think it was like almost ready. We were a little early, so I think we tore the grass up. I'm trying to think. We had I know there were a lot of missionaries and more that came up to the mission, but I looked through some pictures, and we had a district with, I think, 5 missionaries that came through. One was Elder Perry. I think he's from Reading. There were 2 sisters, Sister Bohr and Sister Gula Derriere. Sister D, as we called her. She was awesome. Loved her. She was a real personality. There were a couple others. I'm drawing a blank on them. I had a picture, but I'm at my sister's house right now. So, yeah, good. I had great experience there. My companion was actually from Chorley, which is right by Preston. And I didn't mention this before, but my brother served in the Leeds, England mission. And one of his companions was a teacher. Former companions was a teacher at the MTC. And that teacher was the brother of my companion at the MTC. So there's a little connection there that we had, and so really enjoyed that. My companion went, I don't know which mission he went to, but nice little connection.
Cool.
So yeah, I don't have any other things that were too startling to me, but I do remember riding the train up to Edinburgh after that. Arrived at the train station, got picked up, packed everything on the mission van and the trailer, and cruising through the streets and getting over to the mission home. That was great. I learned my first companion was going to be Elder Shawnee. He's a cowboy from Henryville, Utah. We were going to be serving in the Oban area. So if you're not familiar, it's a closed area now, but it would be encompassing the Oban branch. And I came to learn that there's about 10 members, maybe 10, 12 members that were kind of active there. And then on a second Sunday, we traveled down to Campbelltown, which is along the peninsula there. And there was just a branch on life support that didn't have any leadership there that we were going to once every second week. And
wow.
I believe at the time, just going off of my recollection, that it was the largest area in the mission. We had, I remember we had a member that lived up in Fort William, which was an hour north of Oban, and Campbelltown was 2 hours south, so 3 hour stretch north to south on that. And she was expecting a child. Her husband was not a member, and so we would visit up there occasionally. Sometimes we would take the sacrament to her when she couldn't make it down because she wasn't feeling well. But yeah, just a wide, just a big area. Not a lot of members. I remember just being out there was a real learning experience for me. When we go down to Campbelltown, you're the program. You conduct and give talks, pass out, and everybody that's there is also contributing. So it's not like we're just the only ones there. It's all hands on deck, and you just make the best of it. Even in the Oban branch, it was a little bit of the same, but there was actually a pretty solid family there with, they had a handful of kids. The Bartons, they lived on this estate near a place called Tainault, which is about 30 minutes away. The mom ran a Ballet West company out of that. And so there was always like a steady flow of youth. I remember there was one YSA girl there from Edinburgh. I can't remember her name, but she would come to the branch as well. So there's, we taught seminary lessons up there to the Barton boys and the YSA as well. So it was a real interesting kind of learning experience, thrown right into the fire, and just learn to get on with it and work hard. So Elder Shawnee, just a couple comments on him. I know listening to the other podcasts, I was always looking for the comments about other missionaries. So he, being the cowboy he is, he always threatened to laugh me out of bed if I didn't get up on time. So it was good. He started the mission off with good discipline. He also is the missionary that was like trying to figure out how to mount and ride a Highland cow because he did rodeo stuff. I have a picture of him. We're out, the zone leaders were up, and got a picture of him, and he's got his hands on his hip, and he's looking at the Highland cow over here on the side. And
No. That's pretty funny.
Great guy. I remember the apartment that we were in was on Glen Cruton Road, Glen Cruton Street. It was a real dump. I listened to Elder Sprague's. He said he lived in really nice apartments. And I was like, man, okay. This place had a little machine that you had to put pound coins in to keep the electricity on.
Oh my gosh.
I remember we'd gone, Oban was like 3 hours away from Glasgow. So we'd go down to Zone Conference, and it was an event. You got to stay overnight and stay with somebody. We usually stayed with the Johnston elders when we went down. But I remember after one, we came back. We hadn't been able to pre-feed it enough because it was like full of coins, and the landlord hadn't emptied it. We had like 3 or 4 pounds of this like beautiful venison that the member that lived on this estate had given us, and it was just rotting in the fridge. And we were like, oh, this is terrible.
Oh my gosh.
So we asked I can't remember how we proposed it, but one time we saw an apartment that was a sign, the apartment on Breadalbin Street was up for rent. And we're like, I think we called the mission president and put in our letter, and it's like, we got to move. This place is a dump.
Gosh.
Sure enough, we did. It happened to be a couple floors above a pub, O'Donnell's, I think it's called. But yeah, found a much better place. It's good.
Missionary flats are supposed to be above pubs, from what I understand.
I remember occasionally we'd take a little water gun and squirt it out there or something. People would be like, oh, getting all worked up and stuff. So.
That's good. I love it.
Yeah. So let's see. So my next companion, I stayed there 6 months in Oban. So actually, let me just a fun fact. I only had 4 areas in my whole mission.
Wow.
And more than half of my companions I was with for 3 months or more.
It's amazing.
I had 3 companions for 6 weeks. I had 2 companions for 4.5 months, and the rest. So that would have been 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 companions I was with for 3 months. So like, wow, this is. I was the long-serving companion with a lot of elders. So, yeah, Elder Nomichet was my next companion in Oban, and I really had like this post-mission story that is just bonkers. Context though, we used to serve tea and coffee at the Oban Hospital. It was a great service project, not necessarily promoting the word of wisdom, but we were at the geriatric unit, older patients there, and just the sweetest people you can imagine. You ask, how many sugars do you want in your coffee? 2. Okay, great. Oh no, I do sweetener. We actually got to know a nurse there named Malcolm Webster, and developed just kind of a friendly relationship with him. And he invited us one time to go fishing. So we said, sure, sounds great. We could go on a P-day. And so sure enough, went back and read my journal entry, spent a day afternoon fishing. We didn't catch anything, kind of fished from the side of the bank there. He took us for lunch to a pub in Tainol. I wrote down it was like 10-pound lunch, had a nice conversation, just noted that he was very interested in the church's family history site. Nothing else other than that. I got a picture of it, contacted Nomichet. He's got a little entry there with that picture, when we're all our gear. Fast forward to 2021, I was doing like a scanning project for my missionary journal. And I'm like, pull out the page, Malcolm Webster. As you do, you go and Google people that you oh yeah, that guy. I wonder what he's doing. Come up with some really weird search results. I'm like, okay, keep looking, and nothing else. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to click on the serial killer link. So I click on the BBC article, and sure enough, I see a picture, and I was like, that's the guy.
Oh my word!
That is the guy. And I started down this rabbit hole. I uncovered a whole bunch of crazy stuff that went on. So apparently, he staged a car accident, murdered his first wife in the 90s. I think he moved to New Zealand, married a second woman, tried to stage a car accident with her, was unsuccessful, fled the country, and moved back to the UK. He was a male nurse at the Open Hospital. Malcolm Webster then was also plotting to, he was then had a fiance, somebody who else worked at the hospital, plotting to kill her. And police, I was there in 2002, the police kind of uncovered stuff in 2004. And you want to look this guy up, it's just crazy. They made a 3-part ITV series on him. It's called The Widower. And one of the things I picked up from this is that the police were trying to reopen a case on this guy. And how did they get evidence to do a search warrant for his house? He apparently embezzled 4,000 quid from the Lauren, Oban and Argyle Fishing and Angling Club. That's where he took us fishing, was like they managed, and it's like, you have got to be kidding me. So they got a search warrant. It opened the case up. They had like a 5-year investigation into all this, and they found him guilty. And so they originally, his first wife, it was as an accident, the original ruling, but they reopened it and they reinvestigated. We talked to witnesses. They found him guilty. So
holy cow!
Yeah,
that's insane.
you know those like mission rules. You're not supposed to go out on a boat on the water. I called Elder Novacek up. It's like, remember how we said we weren't supposed to go out on the water, so we'd be better fishing on the side? Like, that's probably a good decision.
Oh my word! That's crazy. Goodness gracious!
Yeah. Anyways, I thought that was like the biggest
that's wild.
shock factor revelation post mission that I could think of.
Yeah, goodness.
Yeah. So, anyways, after getting off the serial killer, my next companion was a guy from Colchester. His name is Elder Spencer. Been in a little contact with him, but we only served together for 6 weeks before I was transferred up to from one country area to another. So I got transferred up to Peterhead, Peterhead, as they used to say.
Yeah.
And that's where I served 3 months with Elder Martin, and I think he gave a good account. I had a great time with him. He was a funny guy. What I have to say is that we had totally different approaches and styles and stuff, but it seemed like we just meshed together, because I remember more than like one member saying to us, like, we just really like this combination with you two. And we got some really good member referrals and stuff. I remember somebody, I think she was in the State Relief Society presidency. Her husband was not a member, and she's like, yeah, I'd like you to come over. And I was like, hey, this is awesome. I mean, Elder Martin was a really relatable guy. Our different styles were, it was just that. It was different styles, but we really got along. I have to mention and call him out on this, though. He used to get letters from his girlfriend that were, covered in perfume. And I remember, dude, he would like keep a letter by his pillow and stuff. I was like, oh, this is pathetic, Martin. To his credit, he was deeply committed to her. As I listened to the podcast, and he did end up marrying her, and they're still together. So that's awesome.
That is funny.
Yeah, and so I did hear Elder Martin and Elder Turvey talk about the Slains Castle incident Um, this is, yeah. So I just, for those that are listening that not familiar with this, we kind of had a zone activity. There was a castle that's got the roof ripped off. Apparently, it was the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula story. It's just kind of a spooky area. We plan to go play capture the flag out there for whatever reason. It's along a dangerous cliff line and stuff. So there is this little like farm road that you have to take to get out there, and it had been raining a ton. And so we had a car in Peterhead, and the Huntley elders, Elder Turvey, I think, was the driver. He's an Englishman. The Huntley car was brand new. We had this red Vauxhall Corsa, which was just a beater. It was just, as the mission cars are. And I remember I think I was driving. I got the couple through there. I just kind of navigated, and then for whatever reason, Elder Turvey. First of all, it was very poor judgment on all of our parts to be trying to get cars down there. Look back on us like we're idiots. Big lapse in judgment. So let's be clear about that. But you got a group there. You're like having fun, and this is a little adrenaline. It's good, from time to time. But I remember Elder Turvey just punches that thing, and you hear this big bam, bam. And look back, and it's just this oil in the water, and you're like, that's a problem. So the point that I need to correct is that we called the tow truck with a flatbed. The tow truck took one look at that road and was like, not happening. So we had to call like some specialty tow truck. So it ended up like a Land Rover that has like this water, like pipe system that's intended to go underwater and stuff. They rope towed us out there, and then we got a flatbed truck. And I think Elder Martin and Turvey were spot on with this, but we, as a zone, we pooled together money because we were like, this is shameful. We don't want to have this conversation. I remember we took it into the shop in Peterheath, and they lifted that thing up on the stand, and I remember walking under it. I was like, can you show us the damage? And there was a clean, like, quarter-size puncture in the oil pan. And I remember the guys in the shop, they were just looking at us like, we all got our missionary tags on. They're like, you are a bunch of idiots. Fortunately, like, the price was, pretty reasonable. And we all, except for the sisters, I think we all agreed that the sisters were in no way shared any responsibility for
That's good.
That's my recollection, but the rest of us kind of pulled things together. And, I know word got down to President Wilkinson, but it never doomed any of us.
You made your wrongs right, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
The story got around, so the rest of us who went to Slains always parked in the right spot and walked down the road.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that was not a short little farm road. It was a decent walk from the car park that was out near the main highway.
Yeah, I mean, you can understand we were ready to go play Steal the Flag and needed to save our legs to run and stuff. So we needed to get out there. So it made sense.
Oh man, that's really funny. I love it.
Yeah. So let's see. My next companion was Elder Boutin. Trained him from Edmonton, Canada. Great missionary. Loved serving with him. I actually served with him for 4.5 months. So Martin, it was 3 months. Boutin, it was 4.5. And he's a great guy. Loved working with him. He was a hard worker. We had fun. We had good experiences. Peterhead was and the surrounding area was just such a unique place. I wrote down in my journal that there was like 36 separate Christian denominations and like 20,000 people that lived in the town. And then we'd hear from our investigators that there was another fellowship that was splintering off of another one. And so they were just multiplying. It was like, wow, this place is super religious. And what I found fascinating, I learned really quickly in Peterhead that just you don't start with the first discussion when you knock on the door. It's just a non-starter. You just got, hey, we're here. We're talking about the gospel. We believe in God and Jesus Christ, faith, repentance, baptism, Holy Ghost. We would just start strong gospel. We'd say, we got some common beliefs with you. We want to talk about, can we talk? And just that kind of adapted. And I know you've been talking with some other missionaries, like on the podcast, about, hey, how did things change from the 6 missionary discussions to preach my gospel? And I think probably with Elder Boutin, it was, I think I had something in my journal that was something like right around the time that I'd finished memorizing the 6 discussions, and they were asking us to be a little more flexible, and we'd starting to see a couple white papers show up and like tailor your approach a little bit more. And I was like, I remember thinking, yeah, that just makes sense. Thank you, because these people, it's a non-starter with the first discussion up here for us. So we were like, let's mix it up a little bit.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, just so many stories to think through in that area. I heard somebody else mention Jim Pete, and he's a hilarious guy. He opens the door, elders, come rest your witty arse and come sit down. Yeah, I think he's the mission leader up there.
Oh man,
Jay Golden Kimball's kind of style.
That's right. Oh man, Jim's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, some things that were really memorable. So I just kind of list some people off here that we taught. Teresa and Rebecca Ritchie were just a fun mother-daughter couple, investigators that were in and out. I know they'd been taught by a lot of missionaries coming to church meetings sometimes and not. Remember, like, taking a Christmas tree in their house, and then after Christmas, they'd let it sit in their house way too long, and we'd yank the tree out, and everything just shattered into pieces. Funny stories with them. Yeah, I could go on and on. There's some good people. I know we did. So I played a lot of soccer prior to the mission. Played in high school and formed a good connection. We used to go down to Aberdeen and play sometimes on Saturday mornings, but we also ended up forming. Being out in the country, we kind of partnered up with the Huntley elders and found a middle place in our area between Huntley and Peterhead. It was called Turf, and we got permission to have like a football game there at a little place. We'd pay a little bit to play, but we just had some youth that were on the fringes, and we got them playing and from both areas, and it was just a great kind of experience. I don't think they'd had a lot of attention out there in the country. So just awesome stuff going on.
That is cool.
So yeah, I do understand that Bhutan tipped the car over after I left. Can't remember. I think they were carless or they had some bikes or something, but I can't imagine being in that area without a car.
That's what I told him too.
Remind me, you seem to think that you both spent
Jack trained me in Peterhead, and he was there for a short period before.
Yeah, I was there 6 weeks before. I guess it would be 2 years after you were there. So,
yep, January of 2005 was when I started. So I got there late January for a 3-month period. So yeah, we enjoyed Peterhead and all of the glory of that unbelievable area.
Yeah, crazy history. It stunk like fish. Tell you what. The break wall out there is something else. Somebody gave us a history pamphlet, like this history magazine that had like how they built that thing, and the guys with these like gigantic metal helmets and bodysuits that were down there. You'll recall if you've been since you served in Peterhead, everything was pink granite as opposed to Aberdeen, which was like white or gray granite. It's because there was a pink granite quarry that was nearby. And they had, these guys out there in these big suits. It was like super dangerous, building the jetty out there. And I guess another thing, just kind of to contextualize the Peterhead area and, surrounding areas, is it's a fishing town. And the industry works through fishing, and you're not too far from Aberdeen, so there's oil stuff. And there had apparently been a rigger that had blown up out in the North Sea, and there were some people that we met and taught. Remember, there in particular, there's one widow she lost her husband on one of the explosions in the rig. So, it's very like a lot of interesting stuff that was tied in with people's livelihood and some of the history that was there.
Very cool.
Let's see here. All right, let me jump to the next area. So that was 7.5 months in Peterhead. Then I went to the Paisley area. We were technically in Thornley Bank, but I stayed 7.5 months there. So I spent some time with Elder Brooks, P.R. Brooks, for 4.5 months, and then 3 months with Elder Gilmore. So I essentially going from Bhutan to Brooks. I was like 4.5 months. 4.5 months. It's like I'm the marathon companion here, and just I kind of liked it. I really got to know the missionaries. I'll say this, that for all my missionary companions, I got along with them all. That had different disagreements and styles with many of them, but just had a good experience with them all. I'd say, I don't know if you know much about Elder Brooks. He's a great guy. I do have a gripe about him. He used to eat a cereal in the shower. I'd go in there and his bowl would be sitting on there. He's just being efficient and getting things taken care of. And I was like, dude, just don't. Missionary flats are gross as it is, and that one was not a particularly nice one. You had I don't know what Scottish code is, but whatever their code is for buildings, this apartment was not up to code. It had a washer dryer unit that would do the whole thing, and it had this vent pipe that was like snaked across the floor, pointed out the window. It's like this is terrible. In that was on Robsley Road, as I recall, and I remember with Elder Brooks, we're just sometimes you got to shake up the monotony, you get in this routine, and so we were like, okay, we got this little balcony there that we had a treadmill on and stuff, so we sometimes use that and exercise. But so we're camping out on there. We got to mix this up. It's a nice nights. Remember, we carved out our little sections on the balcony. Had a little slept out there on the balcony for a little bit. I remember hanging my legs out and we put a blanket over, and I think one of the members had a friend that lived a couple apartments down and was like, what the heck? I just saw some legs hanging out from the elder's flat. What's going on?
That's amazing. Gosh.
So interestingly, kind of funny story about that area. It's probably 10:45 at night one night, and we had the windows cracked a little bit, and we parked our car out in front of the flat. We just hear this bang, bang, crash. And I remember Elder Brooks looked up in the window. He's like, holy crap, somebody just broke our window. And I hopped up, and we see this kid. He's taken our supply box. The Zonelator box had like Books of Mormon, passed along cards, blue sheet, planner sheets and stuff. We're like, what the heck is going on with our materials? We got to get that out of the zone. And I look at Elder Brooks, and I'm barefoot. He's barefoot, and I'm like, I'm going. And he's like, what? So I dart out the window, and out the flat, and start chasing this kid up the road. Elder Brooks was, I don't know, a few feet behind me.
Gosh.
This kid's running up the road. I remember he had a little bit of a limp. He ditched the box. He's like, I think he took a look, and he's like, what the? Get rid of this. Well, he went and weaved through a couple streets and then ducked into somebody's yard. And I was chasing after him. I was gotten probably within, 20 feet of him. And then he kind of ducked into some bushes and stuff. And I was like, no way I'm going in bushes in Glasgow after some kid at 11 o'clock at night. I have no idea if he's got a knife on him or something or what. But I just screamed as loud as I could at him, like, you get out of it. I don't know what I yelled. I was so mad. I was like, how how could you? Like, just, this is senseless. And I remember somebody coming out of their house. They're like, what's going on? Everything okay? I was like, yeah, somebody just broke our window. And anyways, I remember we filed a police report and got in the police car, and he was taking down our account, and I was driving around with him. I was like, yes, this happened. This has to chase him up there. So he takes the flashlight, we're back on foot after we get up to that house. And I was like, and he went through the bushes right there. So he kind of walks through there, shines his flashlight. There's this big iron fence in there with prickly spikes sticking up on it. And there is a tennis shoe, like, skewered on it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right where he was. It looks like he left a shoe.
Oh my word.
Like, oh, goodness. So anyways, we never found out who it was. Got the window repaired, and I'm pretty sure like the next week we were at a dinner appointment in a sketchy part of town, and some other kids started throwing rocks at our window, and it was unsuccessful. But I was like, yeah, this is nuts.
You just defined Glasgow and the Paisley area in a matter of 2 minutes right there, Billy.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think I yelled out the window at this kid that was throwing a rock. He was like just there, like with the rock in hand, just bashing it, and he was like, couldn't do it, and he's drunk for sure. And I was like, get out of here. And he yelled something like, cursed me out, you Yankee, go back to America or whatever. Anyways, good times.
Good times.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm thinking one other story with Elder Brooks. I know that Beef is an area that had been closed, and we were asked to reopen it. And it was going to be opened as a sisters area. And, Elder Brooks and I had we had this World of Religions book. So I have to say that Glasgow for me, was a revelation, because I had been, there's like 8,000 people there. You place where you'd knock on a door in the morning, or you'd street contact in the morning and knock on their door at night, and you'd be like, what? Here I'm again. You want another chance? No, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Peterhead was, double the size, but again, if you served up there, that it's pretty easy to chap the whole town out pretty quick. And, people know you, the Graham, the preacher downtown, so trying to
Right.
but you know what to expect there. Glasgow, totally different. We taught Muslims, Zoroastrianism, people into Zoroastrianism. We taught Jews, Christians alike, agnostic, you name it, whatever you could find. And we taught a lot of people. It was so interesting to me. We tapped into this like Iranian network. There was Ali Hussein was a convert. The missionaries before me had taught, and then we had like a referral from somebody in Russia. It was an Iranian person who referred her sister, who was like a refugee in Glasgow. Her and her husband and their kids and stuff. And we just kept asking within the community, "Do you know anybody else?" And every time they'd say yes. So we like one Iranian to another Iranian, and it was kind of cool. I mean, my patriarchal blessing talked about having a gift of tongues and being able to communicate and speak with. I was understand the language that people were speaking, and I was like, oh, well, maybe that just means that I could understand Scottish and get on with it. But
that's right.
We had a Persian. The translation of the Persian Book of Mormon was very limited, and it had few passages, and it was backwards. Right to left instead of left to right. And
right.
We had a guy that raised a shad that was in the top of a Pollock Shaw, dingy apartment thing. And we were there, like, he was teaching us Persian, and then we were using the Persian to talk to other people, other investigators and stuff. And like every time we got a Persian Book of Mormon, we knew where to mark it and all the things. So just not something that I expected. Plenty of African investigators, friends that we were teaching, and I just remember having a great time, because it was finally like I can just go out anywhere and talk to people. And I just felt free, and I was so pumped just to have feel that way after being, over the first year, just in small towns and kind of limited in the way you can talk to people. So it's super great. I'll go back to Beath though. We opened up that area. We went, and the world religions thing that I was talking about with Elder Brooks, we had this book, and occasionally we read from it to contextualize some of the things we were teaching with people. And there was a Taoist theory in there called Wu Wei. Literally means do nothing. Like you take the example they had was you got a glass of water and somebody pours some dirt in it. You're trying to get a clean drink out of that glass. Don't frantically stir it up because you're just or try and spoon it out because you're just gonna mix it all up. So just like literally do nothing and wait for the dirt to settle at the bottom, and you can take a drink. Just do nothing. It just works out. And remember, we were joking about that. We were setting up this Beath apartment, and this woman walks down the street, and one of the elders had stopped her and talked to her. She said, "Hey, are you a Mormon missionary? I have just been at the library looking for a Book of Mormon. I was wondering if you can give me one." And we're like, "Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Where do you live? We're not actually here in the area. We just, some sister missionaries are coming here. Can we give them your address and contact?" "Yeah, great." And it was like a couple of months later, she was baptized. And we're
Wow,
like,
that's amazing.
"Woo-way, guys,
Woo-way.
no more chopping." Oh,
Wow, that's cool.
yeah. Can't remember her name, but it was interesting. So after Elder Brooks, I spent 3 months serving with Elder Gilmore. And Elder Gilmore, he's a great guy, real personable, easy to carry on a conversation, and he's a go-getter. And we just worked our tails off. I remember. I know we clashed a little bit and stuff. But man, did we work our tail off. And I was reading through my journal. I was like, today we had like 8 people come to church. It's like some of the people, half of these people we were like actively teaching and working with and expected them to be there. But it was like some of these other people just decided to show up. You write on a pass along card, "Hey, here's the address of the church. Come on out. It's at this time." People just started showing up, and we were like, wow. We just really kind of got the spirit of that, you never know. You never know. People will show up out of the blue. I know in that area, we kind of shared the same ward. It was Pollock Ward with some other elders, and I think it was like Elder Webb and Elder Martinez from Barcelona.
That's right.
We played football on Saturday mornings there, so it was just kind of a theme for me and my mission. And Steve Keenan, Bruce Keenan, Al Benton. Alshie was not a member. He was a friend, just a proper Ned. Great kid though. We just developing friendships with these guys. There was, lots of kids coming out, and I always, from early on in the mission, I understood, hey, if you got people out there, you got the green light to go play soccer. That was me. That was my personality. I wanted to be out there playing. If I had an investigator or not, I wanted to be out there. It was just a great release for me. But the fact that, my go-to line, and this was with anybody, have you ever seen an American play football? And then I do a couple tricks. And this worked with any threatening Ned in the street. And whatever the circumstance, it was a great icebreaker. It always worked for me. My shoes showed it. I had a pair of Doc Martens that I saved for Sundays, and then I had the other Doc Martens that beat the heck. And it's just good stuff, and just loved getting to know people through that way and connecting with them is something they love to do and stuff. So
yeah.
In fact, so my next area was in Edinburgh, and I remember I'd been in good contact with all the group that used to play football in Paisley, and I remember I asked President Vreens at the time. I said, "Can we organize a Glasgow versus Edinburgh football match?" And on New Year, or I think it was Boxing Day or something, just one of the days that we had off. And it's like, Yeah, just don't let anybody get hurt. So I remember the Glasgow zone showed up, and they came over. There was a couple of members that had vans and stuff. They came out and they kicked our butts. And but we had a great time playing against them, and it just, again, something for me that made things work. It's something that's part of me, and just kind of taking my personality and being able to use that in the mission field. So in Edinburgh, I served with Elder Anderson. He was a great for 6 weeks. Actually, with Menino for a week before he transitioned out. I'll say something about Elder Menino. I remember he came up to Glasgow when I was there on exchanges, and I think I was given some proselyting lesson or something, and feeling a little self-conscious as you might do. You're surrounded by your peers or missionaries. I looked down in the audience, and there was Elder Menino, and he just had this like smile on his face. It was positive, but it wasn't like it was I'm listening, I hear you, and I feel what you're saying. And that was like a huge life lesson for me. I was like, it's such a small thing, but I remember it changed me and changed the confidence level that I had. And I was like, boom, he's got it. And even if other missionaries are not tracking or focused, or they're thinking about something else, he did it for me. And that stuck with me. And I always know that Elder Menino was very deliberate. I mean, there's one small thing, just the way he brushed his teeth. He was so specific about how many he would, I was full 2 or 3 minutes. He's just very, very deliberate about things. And he was that way, very structured guy, Italian missionary. And he just kind of taught me that in the way he was very thoughtful, helped me make that connection.
That's cool.
So just had a little time with him and some exchanges. But Elder Anderson was great. Danish Jasper Anderson, Danish guy. We had a pull-up bar in the apartment, and I remember he and I were kind of like, he got me into doing wide pull-ups and stuff. He's a really fit guy. He was into like jiu-jitsu or something, but just the guy scared the heck out of me when he was driving. He drove 1,000,000 miles an hour the speed limit. Cruising down the motorway with a silver bullet, and I was like, I'm gonna die. And then my last companion was Elder Howell, and this kind of came full circle for me. Same elder that I'd flown on the airplane coming over on, and just so happened that he was going to extend for 6 weeks, so we weren't going home at the same time, and so it worked out well that we could be companions together. And man, he was awesome. I listened to Elder Cooley's, and I guess they had some friction and stuff, but it just worked with me and Elder Howell. I have to say, some of the most spiritual experiences. We were super busy. I remember, and I had written in my journal, like with the zone leader area too. It was like, really felt in my letters to my parents, I'd written, it's like, I just want to get out and do work. There's a lot of other stuff to do. I know it's important, but it's just like, I'm tired all the time. I'm just tired. And it kind of felt that way. And went to Edinburgh, I was like, yeah, this is just tired. I just always felt exhausted. But I did feel, if you read the Oath and Covenant, or somewhere in the D&C, it talks about one of the blessings that you might have is a renewing of body, and really felt that several times, that I was dead tired. I wanted to give, and I just always had a little bit more to give, when I was out there trying. And I remember just an awesome story. It is when you get an appointment with somebody, that you don't not show up to an appointment. You get an appointment, you're there, because you're going to get dogged 9 times out of 10 on an appointment. The statistics. But
right.
You just show up. You just have to be there. And it was a snowy night in December. It's pretty darn close to Christmas. We're on one side of Edinburgh, and we had an appointment on the other side. And this isn't too far from the mission home. We were kind of making our way up a hill. And cars were like stuck. And, a lot of the cars were rear wheel drive trying to get up there. So, and also people had just not as much familiarity with driving in the snow. So we kind of carefully made our way up and parked at the top of the hill, and we stopped and had a conversation with Elder Hal and said, kind of feel like we should stop and help people out. And he's like, yeah, I think we should. So we just got out on the hill. We started pushing cars. And then like a few minutes later, the mission van had come by, the off-selders, the sisters, like the whole zone had been out Christmas caroling. And they see what's going on. They see the two of us out there, and before you know it, they parked the van, and you got a whole zone of missionaries that's here like helping cars out on the hill. And we're like, what a scene. And then before long, like one of the city buses comes down and totally turns sideways, and
Oh my gosh.
nobody getting through. So we had like all the missionaries like jumping up on the bus in the back of it, trying to get it traction and stuff. Nothing. So the car kept coming down off the edge, and like it was getting a little dicey down there. So I just went up to the top of the hill, 100 feet, 150 feet up there, just in my black coat. I look kind of official, you got your missionary suit on and stuff. And I was just like, nope, other way. Doing the thing, stopping cars from piling up. Just woman that comes out, walks out into the street. I mean, I assume she thinks I'm an officer as well. And she says, "Can you help me?" I said, "Oh, yeah. Yeah, you should probably get a taxi cab." She was waiting for the bus. I said, "The bus isn't coming. The road's blocked. You should get a cab to get home." So she said, "Oh, okay." So she went and tried to flag him down. No success. A few minutes later, she walked back out the road. "Hey, can you help me?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Oh, hey, I saw some kids walking by. I was like, hey, she needs help flagging a taxi. Help her stop a taxi." And so I sent them off. And like a couple minutes later, I'm just doing this, thinking that's why I'm there. I'm stopping cars. She walks out on the road again. "Can you help me?" I'm like, got it. Okay. Got it. Okay. I got, so she needed to get home. And I told Elder Hal, I said, "Let's call President Greens. We've got a situation here. She doesn't need to get too far down the road. President Greens, can we give her a ride home?" "Yes, do it. Go do it." Told her the circumstance. Got her up the road. And when we got there, her husband and her 8-year-old daughter were waiting. And they were so thankful. And, by the time we'd finished the car ride, she said, "Yes, come back. I want to talk to you." It probably more out of gratitude than like really understanding who we were. Immigrated from China. Just, had some great lessons with them. And one of the most poignant things, they did not join the church, and I've kept in touch with them since. And just some of the most amazing people I met on my mission. But I remember in teaching them, we left them, as you do, left in a commitment with them to read a passage in the Book of Mormon. And I remember Elder Hal and I were praying, as you prep for a lesson, you're like, "Please help us to, praying that we can prepare a good lesson. Help us to know and understand if they kept their commitments, how we should approach this." And to this day, it was just like so discernible. It was such a powerful revelation to us that they felt the Spirit. And we felt it like they felt it. And we both looked at each other and were like, "Oh, they felt the Spirit. This is what it is." So we went over and talked to them. And instead of asking them, "Did you keep your commitments?" started with, "How'd you feel? Tell us about that." And it was like, yeah, they described it just as we felt it. And we said, that's the easiest help somebody feel and recognize the Spirit. That was the Holy Ghost. As it said, it's testifying of truth. It was so simple, just, and I think of all the things I did in my mission and area thing, a lot of times I was just out there putting in the hours, I was putting in the time, doing the work, sometimes fruitless. But it just occurred to me that, this whole thing and this is maybe a limited analogy, but it's a chessboard for God. He's up there, and he needs us in places. We need to be where we need to be. We need to hear what he's telling us, like stop and help people up the hill. Oh, help this person. Like, I eventually got there. Elder Hal and I got there. It took a couple times, but it's like we're just the pawns and the pieces to be moved where they need to be, and it's not about us. It's nothing about us. It's just being an instrument, being out there, and I just it's so powerful to me. And I had other experiences out on the mission where I certainly felt that way. Just to this day, just have some poignant memories. I have no idea how we're doing on time, but are we okay to keep going?
Yeah, carry on. You're doing great.
Okay. So I'll say Pratt's Hill. I think every missionary, this holds kind of a tender spot in their hearts. I mean, you may have different missionaries will have had different experiences. Just for me, just again, the significance of the place, the history of the place, church history wise, for me was really poignant. And I remember going up there after my mission, and I kind of went off, found a place tucked away out of view from any other missionary, as you do. And you say, you pray. And it's just, I don't think if you were to count the number of baptisms, it probably wasn't very high up there. There's probably a lot of other people that got baptized, a lot more baptisms and stuff. But I remember just praying and, thanking the Lord for giving me the chance to serve there, and just had this flood of revelation up there where it was like what I would imagine, like when you're about to die, you have like this rewind of all your life experiences flash before your eyes, and you suddenly see all these things. But I just had, like, in an instant, just this rewind of like everybody I had a spiritual, like, not everybody, but like significant spiritual experiences with throughout my mission. I remember the message was, you're a steward. You gotta remind people you had these spiritual experiences. That's a connection you made with them where I testified. Stay on them. And I just remember, like, the revealing process of that was just so evident to me that I was like, okay. So I've failed in some respects, and it's tough. Life gets, it takes different turns. You get busy, you get focused on other things and stuff. But man, I just keep going back to that. It's been over 20 years, almost 20 years since I got back, and just those spiritual experiences. And at times I've reconnected with people, and I remind them, said, I remember this experience, and I try to refresh their memory about that, and just doing what I can from a distance, because I certainly felt like some responsibility to do that after having that kind of tender of an experience to finish my mission. And I just remember crying my eyes out up there. I was like, that is just something else. So certainly, I mean, I even talked to my wife about it. She's like, I don't get it. Other people, it's great talking to you, because I know you kind of share some of the, experience of going up there. It's just so yeah. Amazing. So
I completely agree with you, Billy. It's amazing to hear one another's experiences as we ascended that hill multiple times, some many times throughout our time in Scotland. But it really is a special place that we can all recount the moment where we dedicated our mission to the Lord there, and then to return and report. And there's not, I don't know any other missions that have something like that. So it's really you strung my heartstrings a little bit with your recollection there, because you're right. It's a special experience that we all got the opportunity to enjoy, and can recollect on and feel those same feelings over and over again. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the questions we typically ask is any memories that you have with the mission presidents you served under President Sister Wilkinson or President Sister Vrains that come to mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, President Wilkinson was a strong man, strong personality, strong gospel. He's little, but he was strong, and he was. You know, I perhaps he may be accused of being a little too strong at times. You know, depending on how you're feeling about things. But you know, he was just a committed, focused person that I love being around. I do remember transfer calls when they came, and just the voice which he portrayed. Elder Dalebout. After much prayer and consideration, the Lord wants you to move to this area. Your companion is going to be this. I have no doubt that you're going to be great up there and be a successful missionary. You know, just like, and I say that with a little bit of jokiness in it, but because of the way he did it, but it was all sincere, and I love that about him. In the first area in Oban that I served in, I remember he came up for a fireside. As you can expect, guess there's not a lot of, when you have a small branch of 12 people and stuff, you're kind of really looking for fresh perspective, and having the mission president come up, that's a real treat. And I remember we had a great fireside. I think we brought an investigator or two up there, and just loved the spirit that he brought with him, and taught me to work hard. I loved his memorization program, from memorizing discussions to scriptures to, different levels and things, and the commitment pattern and stuff. It's just I bought into it and greatly benefited from it, because I think his perspective was, you get things at your fingertips. You have the words, you have the scriptures, you have the techniques. You are an instrument. The Lord's going to be able to, help you work with a personality here in a certain way and stuff. So that was awesome. So I think, I know you've talked about how some missionaries have navigated the transition from the discussion pamphlets to preach my gospel.
Absolutely.
Vrains ties into that, but I think as early as Peter Ed with Bhutan, I think I mentioned this earlier, but we started to see some drippings of hey, we're changing things up a little bit, and that continued to trickle out while I was the zone leader in the Paisley zone, and just really, it was a white paper here, a white paper there, a zone conference instruction here, and we were just learning things and just going with it, and some modifications to a first discussion and stuff, all good stuff. But it was, to me, it was really, really, powerful, given that I just met, I think maybe Jenkins. Trey was talking about this, how he was just finishing up his mission, and he's like, I had everything memorized. I knew what I was doing, and I'm sticking with it. But I felt like just empowered, because not only to have all 6 discussions memorized, I had all these scriptures memorized, and it was now we're just telling, be as flexible as you need to be to meet the needs of your investigators, and this is great, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I had all these words at my fingertips, was really good. So I was in the office with President Vrains. I remember they had shipped out a series of 12 DVDs or something. I don't know. There was 12 different leadership training things for how we're making this transition. I remember sitting on a call, area-wide call with Elder Ballard too, and he's talking through how this series of apostasy and prophets being called, and some of the core messaging, families being together together, some of the truths that have been restored in our day. I kind of weave these thoughts into a discussion. How are you going to connect with people? I had lots of notes from this. I remember President Greens is like, what are we going to do with these DVDs and how are we going to do it? So I remember, for me, working with President Greens, it was just, I felt like, he owned a business in Salt Lake. I don't remember what it was called, but he was a good manager type that was willing to let people kind of, I'll trust you to go do work on stuff. So I remember we set up like, how are we going to cover all these things? So we just set up a plan for the next 6 months about how we're going to, mission-wide, we're going to cover all these DVDs or the trainings for these and how we'd implement it through zone leader trainings and mission trainings and stuff like that. And just remember, for me, that was great experience, just being able to think like that and think outside the box and plan. And I give a lot of credit to President Greens for just creating an environment that, allow us to kind of go with things. And I think you'd probably find some consistency with other missionaries. But President Greens he expected a lot from you, and he cared deeply, super loving. He and Sister Greens, but they gave you the space to go and operate and to make good things happen. And I mean, that's some good leadership approaches even today that I think of in people that I manage at work and stuff. It's really good way to operate. So really love that about him.
Absolutely. Great experiences, great memories. Really appreciate you sharing those, Billy. Honestly, the last question that we have is there anyone in specific, you've mentioned your companions and some other great missionaries that you'd like us to connect with and get them on this podcast in the future?
Yeah, anybody I've mentioned. I mean, I think not all of them are still active in the church, but I think you find some valid perspectives out there. Good, just great guys. I mean, obviously, I mentioned a lot about Elder Hal. He'll be tough to get a hold of, I'm sure. He's busy with his kids and stuff. But he'd be a great one to interview. I'm sure he'd have a lot to say. But yeah.
Well, one thing we definitely encourage and we love is referrals. So if you can share your podcast with those that you're still connected with, I'm sure that they'll love to hear from you. And as we're sitting here speaking, Jesper Anderson's interview will be published tomorrow. So you'll get to hear that. Yeah. Jack had a great conversation with him a couple weeks ago. So, and he's going to get us in touch with Elder Menino and a few others. So it's been a lot of fun to catch up and learn a little bit more about you and your experience. More than anything, we just want to express our love to you. You're our brother in Scotland. You're one of the many wonderful men and women that serve the people there. And we know the affinity that we all have for the people in that land, that there's nothing better in this world than being able to reminisce on good times that we had together in Scotland. So we love you, Billy. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I really do. The last couple of weeks has been, everybody says this, it comes on me, but it's been a great trip down memory lane, got me refreshed on some things. I even wrote some things down. So it's been greatly beneficial to me too, just to kind of think through some of the experiences. So it's been awesome. Good. Thank you, guys.
Good. We love to have it. Love to hear that. We'll say cheerio to you tonight, Billy. Thanks again. Have a good rest of your night, brother.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Talk to you later.